My name is Vanessa Zhou, and I am a 10th grader here. So, while writing my speech, I encountered a significant issue. The concept that I had revolved it around, failure, was arguably something that I have never experienced before. I raked my mind for any memory of encountering an obstacle that could align with such a heavy-loaded term, but there was nothing. So I was confronted with this issue. How could I begin to talk about something that even though I so deeply resonated with, I had so little knowledge of? So instead, I chose to turn to its counterpart, success. Not because I had a lot of experience in that area, but rather it had accompanied me down every path I've ever traveled down. Whether it be arts, sports, or academics, the idea of success has constantly hovered above my head as a reminder that there are always better, higher standards to strive for. However, I found that also presents an issue, a hidden side effect, which is that when our expectations for success don't align with reality, the resulting gap can create something like failure. This type of failure is a personal, private suffering, like an internal wound that does not show on skin, because regardless of how severe other people think it is, its impact is only known to you. Personally, I experienced this type of failure in middle school. It was like climbing a staircase only for the ground to crumble beneath my feet and reveal an abyss, threatening to swallow me whole. I clung onto the edge with every strength, but the results were still the same, like an unresurrectable flatline. Lackluster grades dominated my report card as I struggled to find purpose in anything. And for the first time in my life, I saw that my parents' faces creased with increasing worry. One of my most notable experiences or memories from that time was during a Chinese class. I remember staring at a blank sheet of test paper while I was surrounded by the sound of pencils scratching and pages fluttering. I was chained to my seat, my palms were moist, and my forehead beaded with sweat, but I couldn't do anything. And in that moment, I profoundly felt that I was lagging behind while my peers strode forward. And in my newly 2-digit life, I concluded that I had failed. Even though things were considerably better after that, a dark veil had already crossed over my eyes, and I didn't see anything as improvement. Rather, it was compensation for my letdown. What could have just been a dent in progress became a gaping hole because I let that mindset haunt me. Unknowingly and obsessively, I started to orbit around my definition of success instead of using it as a guiding star. It barred me from taking any risks. It robbed the pride out of improvement and turned everything into a measure of value. For one, I developed a deathly fear to mistakes because they were intertwined with the concept of inadequacy. I lost sleep, I sacrificed friendships, familial relationships, and didn't attend any activities just to maintain my ideal of accomplishment, even if it were just for one more day. And eventually, even after closing the gap between my expectations and reality, the feeling that welcomed me wasn't relief, but rather a new form of anxiety gliding through my veins. Like someone who had just gotten their hands on a treasure, I polished, dusted, and guarded my new success with ferocious intensity, and I felt afraid that the whole would come back and swallow it again. The same nightmare replayed in my head, me sitting in the classroom while everyone else moved on. Now, even though I still grapple with the idea of failure, I wish I had known that success wasn't something that could be easily demolished by a few mistakes, that success wasn't upright, and that success is not fragile. But I, like many, fell into the trap of thinking that progress had a linear trend. So I expected it to look something like this. I thought that by exerting a certain amount of effort, I should receive a certain result, because it made sense logically. If you push up against a wall, it pushes back at you with the same intensity. However, reality turned out like this. And without knowing that dips and plateaus were integral to the process of improvement, those gaps inevitably felt like failures to me. Just like how famous essayist Nassim and statistician describes, I thought I became demoralized at the lack of tangible progress. And furthermore, I fell into the trap of thinking that my current success was somehow a forecast for where I would be in the future. I thought that if I didn't obtain success at the current stage, then I would never be able to. However, I felt personally, to counter this mindset, I found a helpful example in learning about athletes. Professional athletes dedicate their lives to their sport, but even after years of sweat, tears, and hard work, uncertainties are still hurled their way. However, it is the ability to realize that the present is only a tiny segment of the past and the future. The ability to see that we are experiencing right now is only inevitable turbulence. And like renowned tennis player Serena Williams states, the ability to stand up when you fall. So how does this all tie into my topic today? Well, to understand, let's go back to what failure is. The dictionary simply states it as a lack of success, and which is essentially the gap that I had described earlier. So while it is very easy to understand what it is, the difficulty comes with digesting and accepting it. When something is labeled as a failure, it takes a slew of effort to be able to acknowledge, accept, and digest it into something productive, to be able to undo the unhealthy mindsets that have sprung from this one seed of rejection. Therefore, I propose that instead of focusing on digesting failure, we can shift our focus back to success and see how we can reshape it, take it off the pedestal and reshape it into something that is more tolerant and expectant of missteps. That way, the obstacles, the swelling abyss that threatened to swallow me only seem like stepping stones to the summit. And remember that even if the path is currently leading you downwards, it is only a precursor to an even steeper rise ahead. Thank you.